Excited to be here today as part of Shu-Wen of Choux Puff Creations Stretch Your Stamps Scrapbooking Series. And today we're going to be talking about how to use, or how I like to use, and some creative ways to use bold sentiment stamps. So I consider a bold sentiment stamp to be something that has a little bit of weight to the font or the handwriting or the piece, that could be large in size, that's something there to make a statement, right? So I've pulled some samples of what I consider to be bold sentiments from my stash. So Audrey Edwards, I subscribe to her story stamp collection, or her subscription, and every month there are bold stamps. This is an old one from her adventure story stamp, and there are lots of bold stamps in this one, right? This I consider a bold sentiment. This super fun, a bold sentiment. Adventure, let's go on an adventure. Bring it on, adventure. Life outside, definitely a bold sentiment. So her story stamps really do have a lot of bold sentiments included in them. But they are not the only stamps that I like. I have these others from Audrey Edwards. These are really old. They're called messy circles, I think. And these are all what I would consider bold sentiments, right? Like they're meant to make a statement on a page when you stamp them out. And they're just different phrases written in, or handwritten in different circles that are a little wonky. This set is the Wild stamp set from Carrie Bradford Stamps, or Carrie Bradford Studio. I haven't even opened this one yet. Sorry for the packaging noise. But things in here that I would consider a bold sentiment are this wild, like the forest, step into the unknown, taking it all in, wander this way, inhale. So they're not very large in size, but they're definitely they have more of a bold statement that they're making. And so there's some in different stamp sets like that. And then LA Studio makes these title builder stamp sets, and they've got at least 3 or 4 of them now at this point. And they are meant to be, I don't have the sheet with it. You can get a sheet that shows you sort of how they're meant to be, but they're meant to be combined. And so you can see lots of bold sentiments in here mixed in with things that are a little more subtle. And they're meant to build titles. It's a title builder set, and they have many of these that can be combined together. And then they release other products like wood veneer and puppy stickers and things like that that can coordinate with them so that you can have some titles. And I'll show you an example when we get into that. But these stamp sets are great for finding and adding to your bold sentiments collection of stamps if you're interested in that. And I'll link to all of this in the description box below and over on my blog. But today I wanted to show you some ways. I want to start by showing you some ways that I've used bold sentiment stamps in some of my projects. So this is a day in the life album. I combined 2019 and 2020 in the same one. And here I used a day in the life stamp. Again, this is considered bold to me. It has a little bit of thickness and weight to the handwritten font here. And I just stamped it out over and over to create this background paper as a title page for inside my album for 2020's Day in the Life. And so I just stamped it in different colors. It's a little wonky. It's not perfect. I don't care. I love it. It's bright. It's bold. It's fun. So that's one way, is using them to create sort of background papers in a bold, fun way. This is a 2019 trip that we took to Disney World. And in here, I wanted to show you that I use the bold sentiments. This is from an Audrey Edwards story stamp set. I don't recall which one. But this remember this, and then it has this tiny bring on the details with it. I used this as my journaling prompt for every day of our trip. So you can see it back here, remember this, and then a list of things I wanted to remember from day 1, a list of things I want to remember from day 2. Somewhere there's a list of things I want to remember from day 3. And if I had more, I just used it a second time to stamp that out. I also created, these wouldn't to me be, they are creating a bold sentiment, but building them with individual stamps. So I also, in addition to doing remember this as a journaling prompt every day, I also did timed journaling in something I call on the threes. And so I just stamped these out. These are using an Allie Edwards time stamp or number stamp and time. I think it's from a Day in the Life kit. And then used some LA Studios days of the week up here to stamp out the days of the week and create my own sort of bold sentiments inside my journaling pages. So let me just see if I can find an example. Nope, that's that one for that. It goes into a second album. So, but here's another example of what that looks like with the numbers. So again, anything that's making a bold statement. And I'm really trying to focus specifically on stamps that already have a boldness to them versus like creating them with alpha stamps, which is also something I love to do. But since we already did a month of alpha stamps, and I'll link to that, and you can go back and check out the videos that were submitted for that as well. But here I did something that's bold, or using a bold sentiment stamp, but making a really subtle statement. So I think you can see right here along the edge. So it's an LA Studio stamp that says Christmas in like a scripty font. And I stamped it all over this page on the background and embossed it with white. Heat embossed it. So it's shiny and sparkly and it has some texture to it, but it makes a really subtle statement on the background. And that's just a different, interesting way to use them. That's not as bold and a lot more subtle. And sorry, I just want to get this one closed up. It's a big chunky monkey though. All right, and then some other examples I've got include this summer mini where I'm using an Allie Edwards stamp. This I believe is from a Stories by the Month stamp set that says Let's Do Summer, and just stamping that out to create a little banner tag on my photo in 3 different colors that match sort of the theme of my album. And then I pulled some sort of individual pages to share with you as well. So let's see. So this is one that I made using the light story stamp and story kit. And so Let Your Light Shine. So here I colored using markers. Let me take it out of the package to be able to see. So I colored using markers. There's a stamp in the stamp set that says Let Your Light Shine. And I just selectively colored Let Your with markers and stamped that out. And then I used the acrylic word light that came in the kit and then colored shine and moved it over a little bit. So that's a great way to sort of part out your stamps, is to selectively color different parts of them. And you can use those with brush markers, will work really well. And then over here on the background of this page, you'll see I've got light, which is a bold sentiment, combined with this smaller Be the Light. And then one of the, like, it's a sunburst icon that I just stamped diagonally to create a background page for this. And then the coordinating page, or the page that's on the back, this goes in my story album. I've used many stamps from the Allie Edwards. I think this is from the black and white set and the Tough Story kit, and maybe one other one. But they're all story stamps that I had in my stash, all definitely bold stamps, except for maybe the Is This Real Life? And I put them all on an acrylic block together. So I use, my blocks come from Stampin' Up. It's just what I've always used, and my mom used to be a Stampin' Up rep, or still is a Stampin' Up rep. And so I just started my collection with these. So this is what I use. I really like how thick they are and that they have this wonderful like bevel in them. So that's great for gripping them. So you can really hold on to it. A lot of other stamping blocks that I've tried for acrylic stamps, they're very thin. And so your fingers get inky and your fingers get in the way when you're trying to stamp. That doesn't happen with these. They're really good quality. They're thick. They're easy to clean. They come in a little case if I want to travel with them. Otherwise, I just leave them in a drawer on my desk. But what I did here is I lined up all these stamps on top of this block in different orientations and things. And then I just used this as like a press to stamp out. And I combined, the pages were one, and then I split it down the middle to get the 2 pages. So I stamped first on, this would be a 8x12, and then cut it in half to get 2 individual 6x8 photos. And this was about being let go from our jobs a couple of years ago, and just my thoughts and feelings about that. But a lot of these bold sentiment stamps really echoed what I was feeling at the time. So that worked out as a creative way to tell that story. Here's another that I have for my story album, and I'm using Allie Edwards story kit here. This is from the Action Story Kit. And inside I did typed journaling down here on this card, but I made a little flip up on the back side of this quote card and just used stamps from the stamp set that are different boldnesses, and some of them are handwritten, some of them are typed out, to create a pattern. And so that's a great way to, pattern making is a good way to use those bold sentiments. Here's a Project Life pocket page using a bold sentiment stamp from an August Stories by the Month kit from Allie Edwards to create these little bubbles to just they're really just to hold my numbers and to spread out the color. And then I've got them color coordinated and numbered to their little like context pieces here in this journaling card. This is a 12 by 12 page featuring a picture of each of my, at the time, this was last summer I made this page. At the time, these were all of our nieces and nephews, and using this "You Make the Sunshine Brighter" like quote bold sentiment stamp really is the foundation for this page. This is from Ellie Studio. This is all Ellie Studio product. And so I've got coordinating pattern papers in those colors. Just a fun page to sort of talk about my adoration for my nieces and nephews. And then here is another, this is a 9 by 12 page that might be 8.5 by 11 page. Not sure. Featuring my nieces and I, and all Ellie Studio products. Here, this is featuring that title builder stamp set. Let me see if I can see where I put that. Oh, so I don't know if it's using this particular one, but you can see here how this summer coordinates with the title. So "You Make Summer So Very Fun" is my title of this page, all stamped in different sentiments. And actually it is from this Title Builder 3. So I've used the "You Make the Summer" here, but there's also "Summer" as a stamp. So very fun. So they're great for building titles, great for making backgrounds, great for just being the feature of your page. And so you can see that in lots of different examples across what I've shared. So now let's dive into using some bold sentiment stamps in a project. All right, I am back. So instead of putting together a sort of process page where I'm using a stamping technique using bold sentiments, I figured I would dive in a little bit to a technique that I've really been loving lately that I didn't really show you in my samples because it's something that I'm new to experimenting with and playing around with, and that is layering my stamps. So I've been super inspired by Heidi Swap and Carrie Bradford Studios and some of the folks that they're working with, where they are really playing around, having a good time with layering different kinds of stamps, different weights and fonts and handwriting and typed things. And so that's how I'm gonna play today and take you along on the process that I've been exploring. So we're gonna work on a little 3x4 card here that has a little bit of a really light pattern on it already, just to give it some interest. This is going to go into my October daily that I'm working on, but I'm not going to complete the page. I'm just going to work on this specific little thing. And then if I've got some time, I want to go into another try the same technique in a different project on a different thing. So to get started, I'm going to show you what I've got out in front of me. First of all, we've got the little card that we're going to be working on. I've got my acrylic stamp blocks, and these are 3 of the most popular sizes that I use. Like I said, these are from Stampin' Up. I will link to them below. But these are 3 of the ones that I use the most. I like this one because it can accommodate some longer stamps. Although I'm finding for some of these newer stamps that I've got to get a longer block because it doesn't quite work. So these are from Carrie Bradford Studios, and I've got some from Ellie's Studio that I just got that also need a longer block. So I'm on the search for that. If you have any good recommendations, you can go ahead and drop them in the notes below. And then I've got my ink pad, so I'm going to be working with a few different colors. Again, I use Stampin' Up! For most of my stamping products. So these are all different Stampin' Up! Inks. Some of them are retired colors. That doesn't bother me. So it means they may not be available. I also am a stickler for cleaning my stamps. So I use Stampin' Up! Stampin' Mist, which cleans and conditions the stamps, as well as the Stampin' Scrub, which is this nice little mat. So you, it's got little icons up here for wet and dry side. And so you spray the Stampin' Mist, and then you can use it as a scrub pad. And then this side remains dry to sort of like get off any of that extra residue. I like the sustainability of this. It's not as wasteful as baby wipes and things like that, and I think it works a little bit better. And again, I've always used that process, so it's what's comfortable for me. And then I have a variety of stamps. So I've got the I have the Teach Story stamp from Ali Edwards. And I have the Thankful, I think this is called Thankful. It's an older Ellie Studio stamp set. The Everyday Tabs story, the Everyday Tabs stamp set from Ellie Studio as well. These are my favorite stamps ever. I have all of the tabs stamps that they've come out with. They've got springtime tabs. I think they had Christmas tabs last year. I think they're coming out with an autumn tabs. I think I saw a sneak of that. That'll be coming out in their October release. So I'm super excited to grab that one as well. I love them for little bits of stamping and using in Avery Index tabs. They work great for that. So I'll stop gushing about that. I've got the Carrie Bradford Borderlines stamp set again. And I know some of these you're not looking at these all going, oh, they're bold sentiments, but some of them have bold sentiments in them, and I'm going to be using those. And then something I've been doing recently, I was inspired by Laura Wansick to take apart my stamp sets. So stamp sets that I don't love all of the stamps, or I'm not using most of the stamps, I've broken them apart and created my own stamp sets. So these 2 here are just general sentiments. You can see there's a lot of bold sentiments mixed into these, as well as just some, little like smaller sentiment stamps. And I'm going to be using some of these, but I'll link to Laura. I'll try to link to the Instagram video where she shows her process for breaking apart her stamp sets and creating new ones. But I'm going to be using these. So I've got my collection of stamps. I got all my materials. I also keep, this is just a sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. That's just a stamp off sheet. So I use it to test out ink or see how things are going to go. But I also use it when I'm maybe stamping with something longer, like the borderline stamp where they will run off my card. I use this, I just keep it on my desk in a paper organizer so that if my ink runs off, it's okay. So I'm going to be working on this, but I'm going to flip it over to the cleaner side. So hopefully you can see that a little bit better. And it's not so crazy looking. All right, so what we're going to be working on today is I'm going to be trying to use some of my bold stamps to layer together to talk about and tell a little story, sort of. So I've pulled out some of my stamps here, and I'm just going to get started with playing and seeing how things work out.
Alright.
So what I'm loving about this sort of stamp layering technique is being able to not just use my bold sentiment stamps, but really mix together things that are more shape-based and things that are more bold or a little bit smaller. Like this one's really just like a teeny little stamp. I'm going to use this to create a flip up. So I may not have even needed to do that stamping up at the top. To do a flip up, to do some hidden journaling underneath of there. And then I'll pair it with a photo. But there is a great, simple, easy way to use your bold sentiment stamps in a mix with other stamps, other shapes, other sizes, other fonts, and a mix to sort of get this really diverse and creative and fun piece. So I'm really excited about that. And then I wanted to share this technique in a different way. So let me clean up this and sort of swap out to the next project that I want to share. Okay, so for my second project, demonstrating layering stamps and how you can do that with your bold sentiment and mix it in with other types of stamps, I am going to create a Halloween tag that could be used in my October daily or some other project. So I'm just using this Manila Ranger tag, and you can get these in a pack from like an Amazon and things. I'll link to them as well. And then I have these 3 October Stories by the Month stamp sets from Ali Edwards. I'm going to be using sentiments and images from these. I am also going to be using the Carrie Bradford borderline stamp, and then I also have the Everyday Tabs stamp set here at hand as well. And then I swapped out to some Halloween type colors. Oh, and I have Magic here as well, the story stamp from Ali Edwards. And I swapped out to an orange, a yellow, a gray, and black ink to make my Halloween tag. So the first thing I'm going to start with is these Borderlines stamps, and I'm going to go with this like plus sign pattern one first, and I'm going to stamp it in this light gray color across the bottom of my tag, just to give it a little bit of grounding and some visual interest down there at the bottom. Yeah. And all that I'm doing here, I don't really have a method to my madness other than just playing and having fun and experimenting. Something that I've been doing when I get new stamp sets is just practicing, right? Seeing how different things could layer together, what kinds of things work together, and that sort of thing. So I'm just having a go with it. So here I'm going to turn my tag, and I want to do this big Happy Halloween that's bold, but it's just outlined. So it's bold because of its size more than it's bold because of the font it's using. And I'm going to stamp that in orange and have that going vertically up the side of my tag here, just for, again, something a little bit different. I love that. And then I want a little something to go beside that. Something skinny. Oh, I think this Life is Filled with These Magical Moments stamp will look good there. Because Halloween is kind of magic, right? We sort of associate magic with Halloween. And I'm going to stamp that in black. I use the Archival Ink Jet Black as my go-to black. I also use Black StazOn as my black. They are the best black inks I have found. And ones that work pretty consistently. Just gonna nestle that up underneath. And it's a little crooked, but again, that's part of its charm, right?
So So I'm just going to speed you all up here while I go through and finish stamping out most of this tag. The things that I'm considering, and I'm sorry this is off the screen, I was just a little bit lower below my camera than I realized. But the things I'm thinking about are that I don't want the same type of sentiment next to each other. So like handwritten fonts, I don't want those next to one another. And I don't really want the same color of stamp next to each other, or stamped image next to each other. So I'm mixing both of those up and considering that as I'm sort of building from the bottom up on this tag. And so mixing the black, the gray, the orange, and the yellow, and then mixing in sort of bolder sentiments and images with less bold looking things, as well as including some images like the bat that you'll see there. And we'll do some more images in a couple of minutes to sort of fill in some of the gaps that are left where I couldn't fit more words.
All right, and so I think those are all the words I'm going to stamp. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these 2 hand-drawn stars from, these are from older Allie Edwards. They're from that Magic story stamp. And I'm going to just stamp those kind of all over. Oh, and then maybe we'll do a gray one up at the top there, just to mix and match with that little gray one from the bottom. And there you can see it's starting to come, you know, it's almost finished. But really looking, I think, quite good. Wish I had a tiny little pumpkin, but I don't that I know of. So I'm going to just do this guy in gray next to the October 31, and there you have it. So there's a little Halloween tag, something to mix in, you know, bold sentiments, smaller sentiments, icons and images, and just have a lot of fun. And then patterns, right? Creating patterns with creating some of my own pattern with the stars, using the pattern behind the words over here, and then the border lines. And so there are 2 examples for layering stamps and combining your stamp sets to make different things that are, you know, sort of title cards or embellishments and accents in your projects. So I hope that that was inspiring. Again, these are not my own original ideas. These are things that I've been inspired by other community members such as Heidi Swap and Carrie Bradford. They do a lot of great layering. So if you're interested in that, you can follow them on Instagram, and I'll link to them below. But it's super fun, and I hope you have been inspired to try some of this today as part of Shu-Wen's of Choux Puff Creations Stretch Your Stamps Scrapbooking Series. Thanks for being here today. Thanks for watching, and happy stamping.